You know that feeling, right? Some conversations just click, they flow, but then others feel like you're talking through a wall of static. Well, it turns out there's a hidden science behind all of it, a biological reality that actually explains why some interactions create this amazing synergy and others just, well, they crash and burn. So, what is really going on in our brains and our bodies when we connect or when we don't? Right. This is the big question we're going to dig into. Is it just random chemistry, dumb luck, or is there a deeper, more fundamental reason why one chat can leave you feeling energized and another leaves you feeling totally drained? The answer, you might be surprised to hear, is buried deep in our biology. So, to really get a grip on this, let's think about it with a simple metaphor. On one side, you've got an interaction that feels rigid, it's all about the rules, and it creates this sense of isolation. That's the static. Then, on the other side, you have an interaction that creates safety and connection, and that's the synergy. Now, we all instinctively want the one on the right, but the question is why? It all comes down to the mental map we're using to navigate the world. The reason for all that static, all that isolation, really comes from something we can call the old map. Just think of it like an outdated operating system, like an old piece of software that a lot of us are still running. And the problem is, it's based on a fundamental misunderstanding of how things actually work. And the core idea of this old, flawed map is really simple. It tells us that we are fundamentally separate. Separate from each other, separate from all other life on the entire planet. It's a worldview that's built on division and competition. Believe it or not, this feeling of being separate actually comes from old science. You might even remember the three-domain tree of life from a biology class. It puts us, eukaryotes, which is all complex life, animals, plants, us, on our very own separate branch. This creates these rigid walls between us and other life forms like bacteria. This model is pretty much the scientific source of all that competitive static noise, and as we're about to find out, it's all an illusion. And this quote just brilliantly illustrates the whole problem with that rigid, rule-based map. There was this research paper on robotics, and it found that a robot programmed with a fixed set of rules, when it's faced with a dynamic, changing situation, like a narrow passage, it just crashes. It can't adapt. And that is exactly what happens in our own interactions when we're running on that old map of separation. We topple over. So what's the alternative? Well, it's something we'll call the new map of connection. And look, this isn't just some nice-sounding philosophical idea. It is a full-blown biological revolution that's changing literally everything we thought we knew about our place in the world. Get this, recent DNA evidence doesn't just tweak the old map, it completely tears it to shreds. We go from a three-domain tree of life to a two-domain tree, and in this new, more accurate reality, we aren't on some separate lonely branch. Nope. Turns out we're nested deep inside another domain. That whole separation thing, it was the illusion all along. So who are we connected to? Let me introduce you to the Asgard archaea. Now, archaea are these tiny, single-celled organisms, some of the most ancient life on Earth. And it turns out this specific group is our closest microbial relative. The new map shows that all complex life didn't just branch off from them. We actually evolved from within them. That big wall of separation, it never even existed. And you can just feel the excitement from the scientists who discovered this. Brett Baker, he's one of the key researchers over at UT Austin, and he summed it up perfectly when he joked, "We are all Asgardian." It is a complete redefinition of who we are, and it proves that connection is our biological default state. It's built into our DNA. So why does making this kind of connection feel so good? It all comes down to brain science, specifically something called a positive prediction error. This is basically the chemical rush of dopamine you get when reality turns out to be way, way better than you expected. When you go into a conversation expecting that wall of static, but instead you find a real, genuine connection, your brain literally rewards you for it. It feels good for a very specific biological reason. Okay, so we've got the biology, we've got the brain science, but does this new map of connection actually deliver better results in the real world? Let's take a look at some tangible proof, which comes from this absolutely fascinating experiment involving a dancing robot. So in this experiment, the researchers didn't just load up a robot with pre-programmed dance moves. No, instead, they designed it to learn by observing a human partner and then, get this, co-create a dance with them in real time. It wasn't about following a rigid set of rules. It was all about adapting and syncing up, just like what happens in a really great conversation. And here is such a crucial detail. For the robot to be able to dance freely and creatively, it needed a physical, four-sided fence to give it a clear, safe boundary. And this is the perfect metaphor for human connection, isn't it? Real synergy, real co-creation. It happens inside a safe fence, a psychological space where we feel secure enough to be a little vulnerable and truly create something new with another person. And here is the hard data that proves it all. When the robot was dancing by itself, just following its programming, its creativity was rated a 6.0. Okay, not bad. But when it connected and co-created with a human partner, that creativity score jumped all the way to an 8.2. This isn't just a feeling, folks. It is a measurable operational upgrade. Connection literally creates a better, more creative outcome. What's also fascinating is that the data shows it takes about 10 seconds for the robot and the human's dance to really stabilize and sync up. And this just proves that connection isn't some instantaneous magic trick. It's an active process. It's a process of calibration, of finding that shared rhythm together, moment by moment. So let's tie all of this together. Why does operating from the new map of connection always win? Well, because, as we've seen, it's not just some nice, warm and fuzzy feeling. It is a fundamental operational upgrade for our brains and for every interaction we have. It's a really simple but powerful three-step process. First, the new map gives us the biological proof that we are all deeply linked. We're wired for this. Second, when we act on that truth, it creates that powerful, positive prediction error in our brains, which rewards us for connecting. And third, all of that leads to measurably superior, more creative, more synergistic outcomes, just like with our dancing robot. And that right there brings us to the final crucial point. The science is crystal clear. Connection is our biological reality, and it produces results that are quantifiably better. So the only question left is a personal one. Which map are you using to navigate your world? The old, outdated map of separation, or the new, powerful map of connection?